What's good with it in the hood with it? Welcome back to the Collective Clips where you already know we get it in. But before we get it in, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Ding! Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content I am kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support, man. We're going up on this channel and it's because of you. And for that, I'm very humbled. Thank you so much. So I was asked a question the other day and I want to answer it directly because I feel it was a great question. You know, somebody asked me in one of my lives, you know, how exactly veterans are treated while incarcerated in the California system in prison. You know, what's the difference between a veteran and just a regular civilian, a person? A veteran is someone who has fought, not a veterano, not someone that's from the streets that's putting out twerk, right? We're talking about somebody who has fought in the armed forces, someone who fought for our country, for our freedoms, our liberties, all that, right? Shouldn't they be treated just a little bit different? Shouldn't they get a little bit more respect? Shouldn't they get a little bit of love? Shouldn't there be programs to help facilitate them, you know, their incarceration, make it just that much more better so that way they can get out and become productive members of society? I'm getting all fucking smart on you, huh? Trip out on this. They ain't treated no different. Period. Plain and simple. They ain't got nada coming. You know, if anything, a lot of those CEOs, a lot of the officers that work were in the armed forces. So they look down upon them. They feel let down. They feel like these vatos are turncoats and that they kind of turn their back going from one system to another. Now, when you go to the armed forces, that's kind of like being incarcerated. You go through boot camp, you go through training, you go through whatever basic skills you have to go through to get up to par. So that way you're ready for guerra, you're ready for wartime, you're ready for whatever it entails. It's a job. It's a job being in the armed forces, but not only is it a job, it's also a way to build structure in your life, to build how to program, how to function, how to adapt to, you know, different people. You're going to be around and amongst a lot of brothers, a lot of people that you not necessarily would have kicked it with, maybe in your hood or your VOD, especially if you were into gangs or involved in the streets like that and then go into the armed forces, which I've had a lot of homeboys that went into the military because the judge told them they had to or because they chose to. Whatever the case may be, I've had friends that have went to the armed forces that were involved in guerra, meaning war, at wartime, and then ones that were involved in just fucking working on car engines. Either way, they did what they had to do. They fought for our country or they put in work for our country. Now, these people I respect. I respect every veteran of the military because I know some of the hardships that they went through. It's hard being apart from your family. Believe, I started very young. Being away from your family, not being involved in the reindeer games, not there for holidays, not seeing your children grow up. There's a lot of hardships that are very parallel with the armed forces and prison. See, there's a lot of soldados. And when I say soldados, I mean soldiers in prison, soldiers from the streets that are going through them struggles. They don't get to spend fucking holidays with their family. They don't get to see their kids. And albeit it's because they made a mistake or they chose to do crime. So you have to reap what you sow. There's your bed, fucking lay in it, right? Con un pillow and a cotton blanket that itches a little bit. But at the same time, it's kind of the same thing in the military. These guys choose to go a certain route and they sacrifice. They make sacrifices in their life, but they're not just sacrificing because they fucked up or they did a crime. They're sacrificing for the betterment of everybody, for the protection of us, right? While we're busy gangbanging on the streets and fighting amongst our own and killing each other, these guys are out there trying to fucking maintain and make it a better world to live in. But at the same time, you know, they don't get the respect that they should get. Now, I'm a different type of person. Real recognizes real, steel sharpens steel. I recognize people that have made sacrifices for the betterment of people, being myself and those amongst and around me, right? It's just the way it is. But also on the flip side, I recognize the homeboys that put in that work in prison and maintain the integrity, the morals, the standards, the values, and the professionalism they have to do to conduct themselves while incarcerated. So that way homies have their fucking spot on the yard or people have their fucking, you know, their cama to lay their back on. That's just what it is. There's going to be sacrifice at every level. You know, you have to recognize it and can't hate on the motherfucker just because he's locked up. Hey, everybody deserves a second chance in life. So back to the question, veterans, how are they treated? I've never seen a veteran get treated any better than anyone else, which trips me out because you would think that because these guys fought for the country, because they sacrificed, that they should be held up to a higher standard, but also they should be treated, you know, different and better. But a man is a man. While incarcerated, while you're locked up, there's going to be no fucking differences. In fact, what trips me out, we're going to get to it right now, is how Danny Fuckfacerson, right? Master Baterson is getting treated different because he has money and because of his Hollywoodisms. He's getting treated differently than, say, a veteran. I've seen veterans go in. I've had a cellie that was a vet, right? He used to tell me war stories about real war stories. Now, them are real war stories, right? He used to tell me about all the hardships he went through and everything he's seen while overseas. I've had homeboys that fought and would tell me war stories, right? Now, my cellie had PTSD. He came back with a little something, right? He came back with a little extra backpack on his back because that Volta would trip out at night. He'd wake me up swinging and shit. I'd be like, hey, bro, don't trip. The Southsiders are going to leave us alone. We'll be all right, right? Now, he was like, no, homie, fuck that, eh? Let's get that the Voltas were from Iran, right? Now, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you ran, homies. You ran into prison, and now you have to maintain. So I would help him out through his hardships and through all the bullshit he was going through. And he told me, man, you know, he's seen a lot of things. And I said, well, you're going to see a lot more while incarcerated. Just like you had to desensitize yourself while in war out there in the armed forces, you're going to also have to desensitize yourself in prison. Because the first time you see a pegada, bam, bam, someone get hit, it's like, oh, shit. The second time, you're like, fucking that was the way fucking the blood splurted. The third time and the fourth time, you're like, hey, what's for lunch? Fuck, we didn't get an orange today. You know, that's what desensitized means. It means it becomes a normal thing. The normality of it will trip you out. It's like breathing fresh air. Hey, did you hear what happened on the other yarda? What happened? They butchered someone. Is that right? Hey, isn't it chicken night tonight? You know, that's it. You don't trip because, first of all, it's none of your business, and in prison you mind your own or your own will remind you. But second of all, here's some knowledge you can't get in college. You know, you become aware and understanding that that's just a life that you're involved in. That's what you signed up for. That's how you're living now. That's what happens behind them walls. Vets are no different. Veterans don't get treated differently. Like I said, man, I had a cellie. Let me tell you what happened one day with an officer and how it almost got ugly for him and that officer. So one of the main things you don't want to do in the California prison is put your hands on a cop, on a CO. Don't ever do that, man. Look, if it comes to that point where you feel that he's disrespected you and you feel you have to go that route, you might as well go full out, all out. You might as well fucking end his career, end yours. You're going to fucking do life or they're going to hang you and this vault is fucking going to be gone. Because if you think that you can just push a cop or knuckle up or buck up on a cop, you're in the wrong fucking area. I'm telling you right now, they're going to make your life a living hell. They're going to go out of their way to hurt your feelings every single day. And they got all day to do it. Especially if you're a lifer. Believe me, it would go from generation to generation. That's going to be in your C file. They're going to know that you put hands on cop. And everywhere that you go, they're going to put a little bit of hands on you. They don't ever forgive or forget. Period. That's how the SEALs rock. You talk about gang members, you ain't seen shit yet. SEALs don't fuck around. Now, a lot of them are just there to do their 9-to-5 job. A lot of them are just there to, not correct your behavior, but to make sure your behavior is correct. And that's it. But at the same time, man, if you want to buckle up on them and think that you're going to go for a ride, well, they're going to take you on a roller coaster you will never forget. So one day, this cop's walking by the cell, looking in the cell. Hey, pop the cell, snatches me up, handcuffs me, snatches my cellie up. The one with post-traumatic that was the veteran, right? Snatches him up and starts getting in his face. I don't know if my cellie had a flashback to the Marines or whatever it was, but that about the fucking started shaking and tripping and everybody was like, oh, fuck. And I was like, here he goes. I had seen it before. He's about to explode. It'll start from here and that about to start shaking and all of a sudden he'll be like, fuck you. And that's exactly what he did. And this cop was like, fuck me? No, my friend, fuck you. Started to twist his arms all up. And of course, I can't do nothing. I'm handcuffed because I ought to roll with my cellie to the fullest. Maybe, right? So my cellie's fucking trying to headbutt this cop. They snatch him up, slam him. I don't see him for a very long time, right? The moral to that story was they didn't care about his veteran status, about him being in the armed forces. It's funny because they'll ask you when you go to the reception, have you ever been in the military? And they're not doing that because you're going to get an extra fucking ice cream on Sunday. They're not doing that because they're going to put a little extra cantina or a little extra money on your books. They're doing that so they know that you're a trained person and they need to watch out for you just a little bit more. Not watch out to help you, but watch out to fuck you. That's just what it is. So, I mean, the guy that asked me, do veterans get treated different? If anything, they get treated just a little bit worse, in my experience. Now, there are some prisons that have programs to help people with post-traumatic. There are some prisons in different states that have veteran programs. But in the state of California, you get nothing, man. The state of California is not there to rehabilitate you. They're there to make sure you don't stab anyone. And if you do, fuck, bro. Now I got to write that up. That's just how that program goes. You know, it's not prison. You're not going to get treated differently unless you're a weirdo. Okay, weirdos like Danny Masterson get treated different. Now understand this. A war veteran that comes into the prison system that's never been incarcerated, never been gang related, never hung around with them type of individuals is actually a very good person, but just made a few mistakes, gets locked up. He don't get no special privileges, no incentives, no nada. He goes to a 4-yard or a 3-yard or whatever his points merit, and that's it. He gets blended in with the rest of them. Now, of course, man, people will pick his brain. Hey, bro, you know, where were you? How'd you do it? You know, anyone wants to hear a little war story to pass time. But other than that, it's nada. He doesn't get a fucking special card that gets him 10% off on the packages. He don't get an extra shower. He don't get no extra zoo-zoos or no wham-whams. In fact, if he gets set up with the wrong person, he might get zoo-zooed and wham-whammed, right? They didn't do this in Iraq, huh? No, they didn't, right? And that's it. But you have people like Danny Masterson, okay? A convicted rapist, whether he did it or not, right? I'm not here to fucking argue with you. Some guy said there wasn't a shred of evidence. Yeah, well, you know, the woman said what she said, Holmes, and the judge felt like they were going to do what they did. And that's it. Once convicted, ultimately, until you appeal it and it's overturned, Holmes, you are exactly what they say you are. Period. That's just how that goes. This guy's getting treated with extra incentive. He's getting transferred to different prisons and guarded and taken care of. And I've never seen nothing like that. To be totally honest with you, I've seen people segregated. You know, I've seen people put on different types of yards because they have a sensitive need or because, you know, everybody wants to get them. I understand that. You know, within the CDC, the California Department of Corrections, they have to do that. They have to protect the integrity of the program. Believe, you don't count. Fuck you. You're the last one they worry about. It's more so the program and the integrity of the institution. You know, they can only have a certain amount of killings a year. You know, if you overstep, then they're not going to get their government assistance, and that's what it's all about. But anyways, when it comes to Danny Masterson, I've been seeing just from the outside looking in, being a vet, not a veteran of the armed forces, but a veteran of prison. And I understand this Vato's getting treated much differently. He's getting catered to. The poor Cheeto, right? He's getting helped out. Why? Because he got this. And because he got a little bit of this and because he got a good lawyer, right? And that's why. It has nothing to do with this guy being an upstanding citizen or someone who protected, you know, the America's values. He didn't do that. If anything, he was fucking hurting our women. He wasn't a protector. He was a defector. He's the type of individual we don't want in this country, the type of individuals we don't need. But again, you know, it seems like the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, right? The bad is treated good and the good is treated bad. You know, and that's just how that goes. I understand when you do crime, you shouldn't get treated better than anyone else. That's understandable. But you shouldn't be punished for doing time. The doing time is the punishment. You need to understand that. You know, I had a homeboy that was very gang related. In the mix like a motherfucker, bro. This Vato was with the program, period. And he, right, chose to go into the armed forces. Came back a whole different man. I've had a couple homeboys do it, but this one in particular came back a different person. The homies from the Vato weren't mad at him. He wasn't a dropout now. He didn't drop out of the hood to join the army, right? This Vato chose to do something in his life different from what he was doing, which was leading him down a dark and ugly path of incarceration. Well, let me tell you what happens. He does his little armed forces thing. He fucking does what he does, comes out, we're kicking it. He gets himself involved in a shooting. Someone approaches his pad, waving a gun, tripping off of his tattoos. You got to understand, you don't do that around someone that fucking been there and done that, right? Because they're going to just act different. He pulls his shit out. They get to bucking at each other. Okay, corral. Okay, he got corralled. The homie was aight, right? So the homie shoots him a couple times. He gets locked up. It's a big old trial. His family puts up a lot of money. They get him a good lawyer. He ends up ultimately getting like 3 or 4 years. First time incarcerated. Now, he was a well-known homie from the streets that was really with the program, but this is a different world. You could be all that you want to be on the streets like the army, but when you get locked up, you're in a different world. You're now in a world where you better be correct, Holmes, or you're going to get corrected, if you understand what I'm saying. So he gets to prison his very first time even being locked up. But after the county jail, he's pretty much laced up on what the do's and the don'ts are for the northern community, right? For the raza. So he gets locked up, and there's a cop that actually works there that was in the armed forces with them. So at first, this cop is playing it off. The homeboy recognizes him, but doesn't put him on blast because immediately that's a conflict of interest. This cop is going to have to do one or two things. Either he's going to have to quit that job or he's going to have to let them know and bounce somewhere else. So, of course, this cop feels like the homeboy let him down. So he wants to make it as rough and as tough for the homeboy as possible. Constantly flipping his cell, constantly searching it. Every time the homeboy's on the yard, giving him a hard time, searching him, snatching him up. They put him on potty watch several times. Now, this is somebody who, albeit was involved in the North Day, was involved in the gang, wasn't high-powered or had status, nothing like that. He wasn't striving like that. He was just another one of the homeboys that was a soldado. If he needed to be a real soldier, too. If he needed to be called on, he'd handle his business, but he wasn't going out of his way to do anything extra fucking special. You understand? This is what happened with the homie. So this cop is constantly fucking with him because he knows him. Right? Hey, what's up, private? Hey, private. And the homeboy's like, fucking, bro, you are a pussy. You got a private part. That isn't a man's part, right? Eventually they have an argument. It comes out somewhere along the line that this cop knows him is basically inflicting punishment, his own, doing his own punishment on the homie, right? They lock the homeboy up, of course, in the oil for a minute while they fucking facilitate this guy's fucking transfer, right? This guy transfers to a different prison. And he thought everything was good. But because of this argument, there was another officer that was there that felt that he was going to go his own route. And he was going to keep that flame lit, right? He was going to keep fucking with the homeboy. Homeboy couldn't take it no more. Had one of his PTSD flashbacks and got that fucking cop in the headlock and cracked his whole skull open with a knuckle. Homeboy goes to the shoe, ends up catching an attempted murder charge. And what was 3-4 years is now turned into 20-something. All because they messed with him. All because he was a vet and he got recognized and the dude felt like, hey, I'm a fucking CO. I got a GED. Why are you fucking doing crime? But didn't look into the files that the homeboy, someone came to his house waving a gun. He just protected his family. It's unfortunate the road life leads you down. This guy fought for our country. This guy changed his ways in his life and had to adapt to the prison politics and had to adapt to his surroundings and got fucked with because of it. So no, the answer to the question is veterans don't get treated different. Chirujos and weirdos like Danny Masterson do. Those are the guys that get the extra ice cream. Those are the guys that get the cell with the key. Those are the guys that get protected because people want to do bad things to them. But the guys that fought for our country, that should, be given a second chance or an opportunity and some understanding. I understand you do crime. Everyone's treated, no one should be treated differently. But you got to have a soft spot in your heart for people that fucking fought for that job. Look at that CEO that fucked with the homeboy. He wouldn't even be in that position if it wasn't for motherfuckers like him that fought for it. Yeah, the CEO fought for it. He did that. And so did the homie. Game recognized game. They were in the same squad, homie. They were in the same spot. Life took them down different paths. That doesn't mean you berate your brothers. One thing I like about the armed forces that a lot of homeboys have told me, because I never was in it. Shit, I tried, but it just was too late, right? Is that they become brothers. They become close. They become more than friends. They become family. They got each other's back, just like a gang. It's similar to a gang. The only thing about the armed forces compared to gangs that I've seen is the disloyalty and the distrust within gangs. The same people you call your brothers are the same people you're going to hit real quick because someone else from a different city tells you to. It's just crazy like that. Whereas in the army, man, they become brothers for life. I'm sure there's disloyal moments, and a veteran could correct me if I'm wrong. Shout out to On the Gun Line podcast, man. That's the homie right there. He was a vet, so he speaks on a lot of these different things, the trials and tribulations they went through, and how his life was impacted or changed, and the type of person he has become. Anyways, so to answer that question, no, veterans don't get treated different. Danny Masterson does. He's allowed to go out to the yard, play Dungeons and Dragons, and kick it con chirujos. Whereas the vet, if he dances in the water, he will get wet. And that's just it. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it goes. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming. And remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the strive, the struggle, the struggle, the strive. I'm going to continue to do what I do right here on the Collective Clips, and that's maintain my integrity and drop the best possible entertainment I can. Are you ready? Tomorrow's Monday, and I got fucking some super duper bangers for you guys. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, strive for what I honestly and truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people. Can we just get our shit together? And the veterans on the streets at least get a free oil change at Jiffy Lube. Bang, bang. Not in prison, though. Well, they can get their oil changed all right.